Hi, my name is Colin Malcolm. I'm a teacher here in City Logan High School at New Haven Unified School District.
And you've been on strike now for how long?
13 days on the line.
You never thought you'd be out this long?
No. Well, I think when we came out, we were kind of looking at what was happening in LA and what happened in Oakland, and we're like, we could see ourselves anywhere between 5 and 7 days, but we thought our situation was a little better, and so we may not have been in there as long, but 13 days later, we're still on the line.
And the issues that brought you out and the other teachers?
I think it started with we have felt devalued for a long time, I think, in the district, and we've done a lot to try to facilitate the district being able to be successful with the amount of money that they've had. I mean, including taking furlough days in the past and taking less.
So you've given up?
Yeah, a significant amount of our pay, I think, in the past, and so I think the economy's doing well, and we were like, this is our time.
It's booming, isn't it? All these billionaires?
Yes.
Somebody's doing very well.
Yes, and so we're assuming this is our time now to get paid, and the district came back and said, no, we're not going to give you anything at all. And I think that kind of instilled in us, I think teachers need to be valued, and we believe that we do need to be valued, and we want to have good teachers and to keep good teachers in our school district so that our students are getting the best education possible. And I don't think that can happen when our district is telling us that you're worth 0%. Obviously now they've come back with an offer for more, but it's taken us being on the line for 13 days for that to happen.
Well, they're getting 3.5% from the state. And yet that's not going to the teachers?
Yeah, so COLA for this year, they got 3.7% from the state of California for a cost of living adjustment for employees, and then for next year they're supposed to get 3.26 or 3.46%, which is from the state of California, designated to give employees a cost of living adjustment, and we don't know where that money's going. So,
do you think there should be a requirement in the state, which the legislature could pass, that if they have COLAs of state money, that it go directly to the workers?
Yeah, 100%. I think if money is given by the state to school districts to fund their employees, the cost of inflation, that should go directly to employees.
They can pass that now, couldn't they?
Yes, I think that legislation could be super beneficial for school districts and for teachers everywhere.
It would mean the money would go directly to the teachers.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the disparity of wealth here in Silicon Valley? I've talked to some of the teachers here. They can't afford to live here. They have to move.
So I'm a teacher, and I was lucky enough to get a house before the cost of living really skyrocketed, or the cost of homes really skyrocketed.
What is the average cost of a home in Union City?
It's somewhere around like $800,000 now.
What is the average salary?
So it's, I make barely enough. I have to rent rooms out of my house to be able to afford my mortgage.
So you can't afford your mortgage?
I can't afford it on my own. And it's hard. Like right now, it's a real struggle for me I didn't get much money last month, and I'm not going to get any money this next month, and it's going to be difficult for me to be able to stay afloat and live in an area that I grew up in the Bay Area, and I've loved this town, and I've loved this school district, and it hurts that they don't think that we're worth paying enough to be able to stay here and continue to teach in this environment.
Nikki Moore.
And are you a teacher?
Yes, I teach special education at City Logan High School.
How long have you been out here now?
This is day 13.
And what do you think about the issues that brought you out here?
I believe that...
Let me face this way.
Okay.
Why did you go on strike?
We went on strike for better wages and for teachers to have a living wage so they can better serve their students. And
it's a rich place, the Bay Area. Silicon Valley, it's a rich place, the Bay Area. Silicon Valley, a lot of billionaires. Why do you have to fight for a living wage?
Because it's too expensive out here. Right here in Union City, we can't even live here. I don't live in Union City, I live in Hayward. And that's only due to a second job that I have to have in order to live out here.
How does that affect the kids when you have to take another job as well as a teacher?
They don't get the provision that let me say that over.
They don't get what they should be getting, a full-time teacher.
Exactly. They don't get a full-time teacher. They have somebody that goes there in the morning time and leaves right when the bell rings. They don't get that extra time that most teachers do put in.
And you would like to be with the kids and helping them out?
Yes. I would like to have extra time to work on IEPs, extra time to work on students' goals, all those kind of things.
And the administration, why are they having to hold a hard line? They say that they can't give you the 3.5 COLA, which the state is providing.
I believe they're just trying to give the money elsewhere instead of prioritizing and giving it to the teachers and the students.
So that's wrong. That's one of the reasons you're out here.
Exactly. That's why we're out here, because they do have the money. They just don't want to give it to us.
You think this strike is going to change their attitude, or maybe they will end up being replaced?
End up being replaced. We're hoping that they do change their attitudes, and soon, because has been long. 13 days we've been out here, but we're not going to give up. We're going to stay here until we get what we deserve.
My name is Robert Epler. I've been teaching the New Haven Unified District for over 30 years now. What people are telling me is we're now the longest strike in recent California history. And it's something unfortunate and something that totally could have been avoided. We had a district who came out and basically offered us 0%.
I mean, they're getting 3.5% from the state as a cost of living. They couldn't provide that to the teachers?
No, and we have documented to them, we've documented it to independent fact finder that district expenses for administrative have been climbing at a rate. We're up at about 7.5%, 8% for administrative costs, and our teacher salaries have been dropping as a percentage budget at an equivalent rate. What the district did was took the cost of living adjustment that was designed to help bolster our salaries, and they used it for their purposes and told us there is no money for our cost of living. After, a matter of fact, that they built in clauses for top administration that they automatically get COLAs. It was really a slap in the face for every member of this union, of this association, and every member feels that way.
And going on strike for 13 days, a lot of these teachers don't have a lot of money. They're scrimping by. Is it affected?
Yeah, it's affected everybody. It's affected me, affected my partner. Some people are, we had a member who, due to cost of living in the Bay Area, chose to take a less comprehensive insurance policy. We pay for our insurance, our medical, out of our own pocket.
How much are you paying a month?
I have a Kaiser family plan, so I'm paying over $2,000 a month for my insurance.
That's coming out of your paycheck?
Directly out of my paycheck, right? Yeah.
But the district managers were saying, well, you make $96,000 average salary. They didn't say that you're paying out of that salary for your health care.
No, I think anybody's done their taxes lately, there's one box up there that tells you, what your, I don't know if it's gross or net, but my numbers are the difference is about over $20,000 between what the district is saying and what I actually write down for my income tax.
So living for a young teacher trying to survive in Union City, Silicon Valley, it's impossible. It sounds like it's impossible.
They can't. The teachers that are working in this district, the young ones, most of them are living with their parents or are living with roommates. The idea that they're going to buy a house and live in Union City, it seems like an impossible dream for those folks right now, which is a shame, because if you go around talking to people who work for our school district, New Haven Unified, I think we have a disproportionate amount of people who grew up here in Union City. I can think of a dozen colleagues who went to James Logan High School, the school where I teach, who are graduates of that school, members of this community, and who are now looking that they can't afford to be here anymore.
So what does that say for the future of the school district if you can't attract young teachers?
I think they're going to have a really hard time. I don't know what they're going to do, because we have a colleague who comes in from Stockton every morning. And
just the stress on your family, driving all those hours?
And this school works when teachers stay and volunteer our time to stay after school to help kids with tutoring, to help kids with after school programs. And if we got people coming from Stockton, Modesto, that's not going to happen anymore.
And we're here in Silicon Valley, new IPOs for Uber and more billionaires. Where's the money going?
I have no idea. That's another mystery to me, is that the Union City property values are going through the roof, yet Union City city services are cutting back just like our schools. Union City schools are cutting back. How is it that there's more money being generated through property taxes than ever before, yet there's less money for services ever before?
And California is richest state in the country, yet it's 41st in funding for public education.
It's ridiculous. I have my theories on that. I think it has to do with the browning of our student population. At the time when California was on top, when the first Jerry Brown was creating the model for the country for an education.
Master plan.
The master plan, California was a majority white state. Now that California is no longer a majority white state, most of the kids are people of color. All of a sudden we're down with the South when it comes to per pupil.
How could that be? I mean, the same as the South, and yet the richest state in the country. I mean, in the center of the tech center of the country and the world. I think it's racism.
I think there's an underlying current of racism that people need to think about, talk about, and address. Yes.
And the teachers have gone on strike in Oakland, Los Angeles. It seems like there's a lot of anger of teachers that if they've had enough. You think that it's transforming the teachers in this country?
I think it is, and we got our inspiration from the folks in West Virginia. You know, when you hear about what those folks make, the folks in Arizona, what those folks make, working 2 jobs, working at Walmart, it's crazy. You know, I'm relatively privileged. I bought my house, 30 years ago. I'm a longtime Bay Area resident. I got roots here, so I can kind of manage the storm. But I'll tell you, because this strike has gone on so long, the other day I was looking at jobs at Amazon, the warehouse. There's a warehouse in Newark where a lot of my son's friends, everybody works there. And in their line, come work for us. We're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your teachers. It says that in the Amazon recruitment, we're your teachers.
That's what people are left to, working for Amazon to survive.
Part-time, yeah.
So what can people do to support your struggle here?
I think we got to start thinking long-term, strategically.
My name's Abby Andrade. I'm a counselor at James Logan High School.
And what are the issues that brought you out on strike?
Fight for a fair contract. I was actually pink slipped this year.
What does that mean?
So I was laid off. I was given a pink slip. However, folks who are a little more seasoned in the district let me know that often that's used as a tactic, because we knew that negotiations were coming, that a strike was,
So it's kind of intimidation to tell you better not be active with the union if you're pink slipped?
Absolutely, and then I was encouraged by some administrators to kind of just wait until they had figured things out and not go and sign with anybody else, which, let me know that they valued my work, but also, kind of expose that tactic.
So, I mean, it sounds like a union busting tactic.
Absolutely, and, it's only my second year, but more seasoned folks in the district had kind of said, hey, just, we've seen this before, this is nothing new to us, and they said, hang in there, and things ended up working out. They did rescind my layoff notice, but I know that right now I might be in a place of limbo, especially when their offers always include a note that says this requires additional cuts.
What do you think about the fact that we're in Silicon Valley, we're in the richest place in California, the richest place in the United States, and yet teachers can't survive, they can't really afford to live here? I mean, is that a crisis?
Absolutely. It's embarrassing, right? I believe that we all deserve a living wage, and, I know that the money is there, and it's just a mismanagement of funds and priorities. We live right across the bridge from some of the biggest corporations in the world, right? There's 1%ers right here, and I've always believed in taxing the rich.
And you have a Democratic legislature, Democratic governor, with a supermajority. They could pass taxation on the billionaires to pay for education, where California's 41st in the United States.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I'm somewhat hopeful with Gavin Newsom.
The union did support him. And most teachers.
And most teachers, yeah, absolutely. So I am pretty hopeful. Back when we were organizing, when I was in college, like around the millionaires, tax.
Where did you go to college?
Cal State East Bay. I'm local. I'm actually third generation, born and raised here in this community. I think that that's another thing that adds to this fight is a lot of folks, we want to stay and we are fighting, in many different fronts to stay here. And that's whether, fighting for rent control or, for more affordable housing.
Or how about Medicare, free medical care for all?
And medical.
I understand they were saying you were getting 96,000 average salary, but you would have to pay for your own
We have
medical.
to pay for our own medical costs. So I'm a single mother with an 11-year-old daughter in the district, and I see that $1,800 out of my paycheck go to health care.
Every month, $1,800 is taken out.
Is $1,800 out of my paycheck. So I've never even seen that cash since I've started working here. I kind of look at it. All right, I have health care, but at what cost? And I recently lost my housing in January here in the community, and so I had to move back into my parents, which thankfully, they had a space for me, but that's not room for my daughter and I. And so I'm fighting to live here, I'm fighting to work here, I'm fighting for quality education for my child and for the folks in my community.
And young teachers, I mean, what kind of future they have? They want to have a family. I mean, if you're...
Yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult to work with the youth here that I love so much, and I constantly tell them, you go on and earn, these degrees in this education, you have to come back, you have to give back, but we don't have the space for them anymore. There's no opportunity. We've the district and our economic situation has eliminated that possibility for the youth who want to come back and give back to their community.
So it's a crisis situation.
Absolutely, it's a huge crisis, and I know that folks are creative and are ready to get to work to find solutions, and but union busting is, not the way to go about it, but we're staying strong. We're staying one day longer, one day stronger.
And it seems like there's a lot of solidarity among the teachers, and even the students have joined.
Absolutely. I think that that's what's really brought our spirits up every day, is seeing our youth come out. Even our seniors who are, really vulnerable right now in terms of whether they could graduate or not based on grades, and they've still shown up and they've still come and supported and shown us all their love, and that's totally kept us afloat.
So it sounds like it's strengthened the community, it's strengthened the union, and built solidarity.
Absolutely. My 31 years of living here, I've never seen the entire community come together the way they have to support teachers and counselors in this strike. It's been a really beautiful thing.
I'm Max Weisbrough, the senior at James Logan High School.
I'm Christina Ivy. I'm also a senior at James Logan High School.
And you're students here, and you've been actively supporting the teachers. Talk about the reasons you're supporting the teachers.
I've been supporting them because, I've known them my whole life, and they've been there to support me every time, so I feel like it's only fair to support them.
Without my teachers, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the future that I have now, and I owe them the help to get their futures better too, with the better pay that they deserve.
And what have you learned? You've been out here on the picket line supporting them. What have you learned during this time? Education experience?
I learned a lot about our government and economy and how the student board works and teachers, and I just learned a lot more about how our teachers are a bigger effect on our lives than anybody realizes.
And the district says they don't have, and what have you learned?
I've learned actually a lot about the unions and how they work, and how their district works, and what they say they have and what they say they don't have, and just a lot about money too.
And the district says they don't have enough money, that they would go bankrupt by giving this wage increase. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's true. I think they just said that because they want to scare the community into not supporting the teachers anymore. They had a surplus. They said they can only spend it on certain things, but they could at least give them COLA. To me, that's the bare minimum. And I heard that the new superintendent and his 3 assistants are getting COLA, but the teachers can't, so I just think that's unfair.
Kind of a double standard.
Yeah.
I just think they're greedy. You can't have a surplus of money and leave it there with no purpose. You can't have an extra $3 million for no reason and then just say, oh, this is for something else, and never use it for something else.
My name is Molly Wright. I teach English at James Logan High School. This is officially day 13, but that doesn't count weekends. So we've been out here, this is into our 3rd week.
And are you surprised at the length of the strike?
Definitely. This district has never been on strike before, so teachers of yore told me, oh, back in the early 2000s we got really close, and the day before they called it off. So I think as we were getting closer to this, we all felt like that it was going to be like that again. And so the fact that now we're the longest strike in modern California history is blowing our minds and, you know, dwindling our bank accounts and stressing us out. So yes, no one expected us to be here this long.
And what are your issues for you as a teacher in the Union City School District?
For me personally, I'm not going to be here next year. I'm leaving to go to graduate school, and then most likely after that relocating to a more affordable part of the country. So affordability and the cost of living in the Bay Area is the number one impact issue on like the way that I'm planning. I love education. I love working with the students here in Union City. It's an incredibly diverse, homegrown place where people from different socioeconomic levels and different racial ethnic backgrounds come together and learn from each other. It is
an integrated community.
The most integrated, amazing place to teach at James Logan High School. And I would stay here forever if I could afford it, but I can't.
And that's the situation of a lot of teachers here.
Yes.
Is that,
Yes. At least 3 others who I know who are about at their 6th year here at Logan, 6th to 10th year, like myself. Too old to be brand new teachers, but too young to have bought our home during, you know, the crash or before Silicon Valley, right? The people who can afford to live here are the people who lucked out on lower home prices, right? But those of us who came in the last 10 years or so are renting or are living several people to a room. I live in a studio apartment. It takes about half my take-home rent every day just to stay in an apartment in Union City.
and having a family?
Yeah, not an option right now. So that's part of it is I at one point want to own a home and have kids, and I can't do either right now with the way that my paycheck and life are set up.
And the school district says that they would go bankrupt if they pay you what you're asking. What are you asking?
Well, we have lowered our ask a lot. We started with 20% over 2 years, and now we're down to about 6% over 2 years, which is less than the cost of living that the district is getting from the state. A budget is a set of priorities, and the district is not rewriting their budget to prioritize teachers, as they are continually saying we do not have the money. It's because they're not allocating the money that they have towards this rather than towards higher administrator salaries.
And the state could require that 3.5% go directly to the teachers, that the district doesn't have charge. What do you think they should do that?
Honestly, I'm not as well informed about what the current state and local laws are as I should be. I think a lot of us are realizing as we got closer to this that the laws are really complicated and that even the people with a lot of power, like the school board, know a lot less than they should. And I know a lot less than I should. So I can't.
You're getting educated here.
We are getting educated as we go. And I can't say definitively what the state should and shouldn't require. I do see that we're coming up against a problem and we need to get more creative in our problem solving, and the state should be taking note because, you know, LA, Oakland, and there are several districts in the Bay Area who are close to this place. If the district level funding model isn't currently working, then the state needs to be in conversation about it. I'm not going to say what I think the state should do today because, again, I'm not sure, but I think there needs to be more communication, and the current way that the money and the laws work aren't working, so they should change.
And California has a $21 billion budget surplus. You have a lot of billionaires here, yeah. IPOs. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be coming down to the workers who are doing the work.
Well, I know that Governor Newsom is a little bit less of a rainy day fund saver than Governor Brown was, and a lot of different public services seem to be getting more funds under Newsom, or at least his projected budget that he released, I think, a month or so ago. I'm losing track of time. I think is allowing for more public funding, but we are still, I think, in the bottom 5 to 10 for states for per pupil funding.
How could that be?
Yeah, so California has divested as a state. I think potentially that a lot of the people with power and money are putting their kids in private schools or potentially charter schools, although that's not the issue here in Union City because there aren't charter schools.
Well, these billionaires are putting a lot of money in charter.
Right. So I think creative funding for education is great, right? Because I do think certain elements of the public school model that have been around since the turn of the 20th century need to adjust, and charter schools are good little labs to try those out in, but they need to scale scale up and the money needs to scale out so that 21st century learning can happen for all California students without them having to do a lottery for charter or get into private schools. And people should be able to make their living as teachers. It should be at least a middle class, like afford to live where you teach kind of job.
And well, the district has said you're making average of $96,000 and you're doing very well. The reality is different?
Well, average isn't median necessarily. I think the way that the district interprets numbers is beneficial to their message. So there are a lot of older teachers who are nearer to the higher end of the salary. And so then they say that the average salary is very high and they say that the retention rate is great. But again, those are people who have owned their homes since the 70s and can afford to stay, so they stay. But the newer model for teachers, I don't think people are going to stay in districts as long as they are. I think the district's retention rate is about to tank, and I think that's
going to
really
hurt the
mess them up.
students.
It definitely hurts the students because they want to have, my younger sibling wants to have you as their English teacher, and I have to say, I'm so sorry, but I won't be here, right? And it's true of others, right? Like the teachers staying around longer help to build that sense of community that's so special for Logan. And also, a lot of our teachers are from Union City and have that sense of that homegrown integrated nature built into what makes their classroom special. And so many of my students who want to teach and want to come back and teach here, I want them to be able to do that, right? I work with a lot of students who will be the first one in their family to go to college. They want to get their degree. They want to be teachers. I want that for them, and that's why I'm fighting for this, even though I've basically given up on being able to afford living here for myself.
Okay, what are you going to be studying?
I'm going to be studying education. I'm going to be master's in education, emphasis on language and literacy. I don't want to stop being an English teacher. I just need to go live somewhere where I can live within my means, and it's not the Bay Area.
Jody Schwartzfarb.
And you're a teacher?
I am at James Logan High School.
How long have you taught?
This is my 28th year.
Long time.
Yes, it is.
And you're out here, it's the 13th day. A lot of the teachers I've interviewed, young teachers, they can't afford to live here. They're having to go other places, leave. Does that worry you about the future of education in Union City?
Yes, it does. I actually work with a program that supports teachers in their first couple of years of teaching. And we've seen waves over the years of when rents increase and whatnot, and people were losing some of the young energy, new ideas. I don't think relating to students stops at a certain age, but we do so differently at the different ages that we are. So some of the younger, newer staff can connect with students in different ways than some of us who are a little bit older can. So it is disheartening when we get teachers with a lot of energy, a lot of drive. We get to know them for a couple years, they get settled, maybe they want to buy a house, get married, start a family, and then they can't afford it.
And Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, there are a lot of billionaires. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of wealth. Why isn't it coming down to the teachers and public education?
I have no idea, since everyone got where they were on the backs of teachers. So, I don't know.
And the solidarity here, what kind of solidarity do you have among the teachers? And do you have support from the students?
Very much so. In looking for a silver lining in this situation, it would be how staffs have come together. Logan having a teaching staff of approximately 165 teachers, it is very easy to not see people who don't have classrooms by you, maybe aren't in your department or whatnot. So that has been a positive, people coming together. Having teachers from different sites visit different areas, building connections that way, that's also a positive. I hope when we are through this period of time that those connections are able to be continued to be fostered and built upon, so that we can move forward with some positive happenings. And I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of what you asked me. Oh, students. So yes, some students have been out here every single day, some students multiple days, some students just stopping by. It is very heartwarming. On a personal level, seeing the support from the community.
What kind of support has it been from?
Parents speaking at board meetings, people.
You were at the board meeting on Wednesday?
No, I watch online.
There was a lot of solidarity from parents.
Definitely. The first Wednesday that we were out walking from a park near Chavez to the district office, all of the people from the community who came out.
Tim Campbell.
And Tim, you're a teacher here at Logan High. What do you teach?
I teach AP, English language, and sophomore honors.
And how long have you taught?
22 years.
Long time.
It's been a while.
And are you surprised that the strike has lasted as long as it has?
Yes and no. I mean, in some ways, I thought it would be a 3-day strike. I thought it would be really kind of quick. They have the money. I thought we just got to kind of show our might and it would work. I just think that, I didn't think it was going to be this long.
What is the problem with the administration? I mean, they're getting 3.5% from the state as a cost of living, but they don't want to give you that 3.5%.
Okay, this is a long explanation. I'm going to explain it this way. In order to move up in your job as a teacher, you have to innovate. You have to make changes and make yourself relevant and keep changing every year. But we are mobile as a profession. We stay in one place sometimes our whole career, and the students kind of move through us. Administrators are mobile, right? So in order for them to get better at their job, they can't stay in one place. They have to move. They have to move up the ladder, right? So they also have to innovate. But for them to innovate, they have to make huge changes, right? They have to make sure computers are in every kid's hands. They have to take a whole new program and re-change it. They have to make a school within a school. They have a lot of things they got to do, and those things are very expensive. And as long as you have teachers represented by a union that are trying to keep their salaries livable, they can't afford to do all the things they want to do. So that, in my mind, is their main hang-up. They're kind of like, in order for them to progress and get better and move on to other districts and move up to higher level, they need a lot more money. And so they're not getting a lot from the state. So
why is that? I mean, California's richest state in the country. You got all these billionaires in Silicon Valley. I mean, IPOs, with making new billionaires and new multimillionaires. I mean, you find that a little strange?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of political answers, and I'm on the extreme sort of left on this. I think there are huge movements to keep people stupid, and this defunding public education is a path to tyranny. And so I think that there are people who want to tyrannize us. Now, I know it sounds maybe a little crazy.
They're not interested in public education.
They are not interested in public education.
Unless they can make money from it.
Exactly.
Put more computers in the classroom and get rid of teachers.
Exactly. I mean, and I don't know if computers are necessarily the problem. I use computers in my classroom, but I'm still the middle of the class. I mean, they still can't do it without me, but they use computers. I don't know. There's just so many forces pulling against public educators. I mean, now there's always been private schools, and those are kind of doing their own thing. But there's also charter schools that cause all sorts of trouble.
Are you worried about charter schools? If they're a problem?
I don't think they used to be a problem. They certainly are now. They are most definitely a problem. They don't have the oversight that public schools have. But it's the same thing. When you deregulate anything, we know what happens. People are going to come in and exploit it and make money off it. If you've deregulated it, that's what happened. That's what's happened in every other part of our society that's been deregulated. It's essentially some money person comes in and starts...
Or crooks.
Yes, they come in and they start making money off it. You deregulate education. You get people who don't care about education. You get people who only care about making money off education, and then the whole thing goes to hell.
And a lot of that billionaires' money is going now into charter schools.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah. I mean, early on it was Bill Gates, although I think he's changed his tune. But
Zuckerberg and the Walton family, and Eli Broad, Gates Foundation.
Yeah, and Google built their coding academy in Phoenix. Yeah.
And the Oracle, Larry Ellison, has got a charter school on his corporate campus.
Yeah. I mean,
we're paying for that.
Yes. There's all sorts of things going on, and they're building cogs for their corporate machine, and they need workers, and that's why they fund. We look at our programs here at the public school. I teach humanities, and our humanities programs are always underfunded. But hey, there's all sorts of money for STEM. Why is there all this money for STEM? Well, it's because engineers get paid. They're starting at over $100,000. Why? Because there's not enough engineers going around. You train a ton of engineers, and then suddenly they can lower the price of engineers. It's the 800 pickers thing from the 1920s, right? You say you need 800 pickers, you get 10,000 pickers, and now you're not paying them 50 cents a day. You're paying them just enough food so they can survive to work another.
That sounds like the class struggle.
It is. All right, and as one of the few sort of strong unions that are left, teachers unions, I think in some ways we have to hold the line. We have to hold the line because there are, and I think districts like ours, we're not really like Oakland and LA because they're big and they have charter schools to worry about, and we don't. the only way for them to get what they want from us is to break our union. And so I think that's really what they're trying to do.
You think they're going to be successful?
Being on strike is really hard. And I know a lot of
Is this your first strike?
Yeah. And it's most of ours first strike.
So it's been a learning experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I felt very confident that we could do it for 4 days. And now we're on day 13. And I'm still impressed with our ability to hang in there. But, you know, people are tired, and people want to go back to their classrooms, and they want everything to be settled. They don't like the conflict, and I get that. But still think we're stronger than I thought we'd be. If you'd told me early on that we'd be on 13 days, I'd say there's no way we'd make it 13 days. And yet we're still all pretty happy and talking to each other, and for the most part. So I think we're going to win, but it was a lot harder than we thought it was going to be.
So the decline of unions, or the attack on unions, what does it correlate to?
Well, it's income inequality. I mean, you look at the unions fall apart from the 1970s to now, and the income inequality has just gotten wider and wider and wider over the years. It's a direct correlation.
So stronger unions means more equality.
Yeah, more equality and a stronger economy. I mean, if you don't pay the middle class, who's going to buy everything? I mean, rich people cannot keep the machine rolling. We always talk about like, oh, they're job creators or whatever. They're not job creators, because like a rich guy, he can only buy one car or 2 cars or 3 cars. You give people, what is it? Henry Ford was like, he wanted to pay all of his employees enough money so that they could buy his car, because that way he sells more cars. It makes perfect sense, and we've somehow gotten away from that. And the rich people now seem to think that if they save all this money in taxes and they convince these middle class people that it'll trickle down to them somehow. And
but things don't seem to be trickling down.
It doesn't work that way. They just keep it for themselves. Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, they can only eat 3 meals a day. They can't eat. You feed a bunch of people. If you pay enough restaurant workers enough to be able to go out to eat at restaurants, that's good for restaurant business, right? I mean,
but they're barely making it.
Making it, and so they don't go out and eat in restaurants, and so the restaurant business sinks.
So this Union School District and your district is different than most the big districts that have been on strike. Why don't you talk about why this is important in relationship to that?
When we think about Oakland and LA, those are gigantic districts. We are 1/10 the size of Oakland. So when they're on strike, they got different issues. They got charter schools, they got other problems, right, that a big district has. Well, there aren't many districts like that. This district, the size we are, there's 1 million districts like us all over the state, and they're all in really the same situation. We're not broke, right? The district has money; it's able to be funded. The teachers are surviving. Some of us, a few of us, myself included, we actually own homes in this area, and so there's actually, we're hanging in there. But we are seeing how it's going. We see the trend that we know that, 15 or 16 years ago, we were 54% of the district's budget, and now we're 44% of the district budget. We know that number is trending downward, and they're just looking for the floor. We know that, and all these other districts are in that same position. They're all feeling that. So in some ways, we're like the first domino. And other districts, a bunch of people from Fremont have been here every day because they think they're here next year. They're going to be where we are next year.
So this is a tide that's coming.
Oh yeah, I really feel like it's coming, and we're in some ways, we're the canary in the coal mine, sort of. I mean, we are, we're either the district's going to get a blueprint to give to other districts on how to break their unions, or we're going to get a blueprint on how to win a strike of this type.